Hi, my name is Tanya Perkins, and I am your instructor this semester for advanced fiction writing. I'm speaking to you from my living room, and I'm doing this on my iPad, so I'm trying to hold it still. Anyway, this is advanced fiction writing, and this is an entirely online course, as you probably know. So I just want to talk to you a little bit about what our work this semester will be. This semester, we're going to be reading 3 short story collections. And then you are going to be writing 3 short stories. However, what makes the collections we're reading a little bit different than other short story collections is that they are all considered the short story cycle. So that is the genre of short story collection that we are looking at this semester. The short story cycle is sometimes it's called the composite novel or a fragmented novel, but I think cycle is a better term. Essentially what it means is that each short story in the collection can be read independently. You could open up the collection and just really pick any short story and read it, and you would have a complete experience. It's a complete independent work. However, when you read the short stories together, they inform each other and add up to a larger, more comprehensive experience than any one short story by itself. So you could say that the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. That expression really does, I think, apply to the short story cycle. Short story cycle authors use a variety of strategies to create cohesion between and among the whole collection. So they do this maybe through common characters, thematic elements, sometimes chronology is used, common setting, and there's a few other strategies as well that we're going to be talking about to understand how short story cycles are created. And then you are going to be writing your own short story cycle made up of 3 stories. I don't want you to feel overwhelmed or intimidated. The beauty of the short story cycle is that as we're reading these collections and you want to skip a story, that's totally fine. It's not like a novel where you really do have to read every chapter in order to understand some cohesive plot or maybe multiple plot lines. The short story cycle doesn't quite work like that. So I don't want you to be overwhelmed or intimidated by the fact that we're reading 3 collections. I think you're really going to enjoy them. So the 3 collections we're reading we're going to start off with Hemingway's In Our Time. There it is. So Hemingway wrote this, or it was published, I should say, in 1925. Hemingway, as a writer, was probably one of the most influential writers of the 20th century. Today, we might describe him as a great example of toxic masculinity because he really liked anything that involved, he was very active, let's just say that. He did a lot of hunting and fishing and killing things, which I don't really like. But his influence is really unmistakable, and I think as writers we can learn definitely learn from him. His influence, he was heavily influenced by 2 other authors of I hate to use the word canonical, but really benchmark short story cycles, and that is Sherwood Anderson's Winesburg, Ohio, and James Joyce's Dubliners. Those are both short story cycles, and he was heavily influenced by both of them in writing In Our Time. In Our Time was one of the first things that Hemingway had published. And his influence, in turn, can be seen in such mid-century writers as Raymond Carver, who was a prolific short story writer, and Amy Hempel, who is more toward the end of the 20th century, and even Susan Mino. And she is one of the other authors we're going to be reading. Her short story cycle, Monkeys, about a family with, I think, 7 children. The third one we're going to be reading is Louise Erdrich's Love Medicine, which takes place on an Ojibwe reservation in South Dakota. So all of these writers take very different approaches to the short story cycle, and I think that there is something here for everyone, no matter what your taste. Our work this semester is organized by module. So everything is in the modules. The modules are a week long. And if you just start at the first and work your way through sequentially, you should have no trouble. I'm doing the workshopping a little bit differently this semester than I have in past semesters. And so we'll talk a little bit more about that as we get to it. In terms of myself, I'll tell you a little bit about myself. I live here in Richmond, Indiana. And actually, as I said, I'm making this video for my living room. So when my house, the house my husband and I share, was built in 1929. And when we moved in a few years ago, we decided to have this bookcase built behind me. Can you see that? It's like wall to wall. I just love it. My husband designed it. We're both readers. This is our living room, and we spend a lot of time in here reading. So I'm actually Canadian, though. I married an American and moved to this country, oh my goodness, 27 years ago. I was 12 at the time. So I've lived here actually for about half my adult life. I have a master's in English from Western Washington University, and I have an MFA in fiction from Murray State University. And most of my own work is in short fiction. I write mostly short stories, although I write a few other things too. I have had a little bit of poetry published. I had a chapbook come out last year by WTAW Press. And I am working on a collection of I am working on my own short story cycle. A couple of which pieces have been published. So I find the genre just fascinating. I'm also interested in the scholarship of teaching and learning. So that's actually an area of research for me. As of this month, we're still in August, right? As of this month, I am also now the chair of the English department. So if you have any questions or any concerns or anything, please come see me, and I'm here to help you in any way, whether it has to do, obviously, in connection with this course, but in connection with other things related to the English degree. Okay, I'm going to stop this now. So I'm looking forward to getting to know all of you, and I am looking forward to working with you on the short story cycle.